Hi everyone, thank you for joining today in our Day in the Life series. My name is Lara, I am the Community Manager at European Leadership University. First, I would like to tell you a little bit about European Leadership University before I introduce our guest of the day. As you may or may not know, we are a fairly newly founded university with a focus on competency development. So we have programs specifically in new technical domains such as data science, software engineering, and we focus on creating job-ready talent. There's a skills gap, I think, in countries like the Netherlands, but also more wider across Europe. And this is why we focus on getting people the skills that are necessary in the labor market by talking with people in the labor market. And that's why also today I think is a very fitting call. So today I'm here with Toons Weyens. Thank you so much for joining.
Hey, nice to have. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Great. So what I'll do today is I would like to ask Toon a couple of questions about his career in data science, his role exactly at Mathworks, and also how he got there. And what I think is exciting is Toon has a bit of a not too unusual background. I think we've seen it before in data science, including one of our first speakers in this series, but he's actually coming from a very academic background. He has a PhD and his background is in energy engineering and physics. So I'll definitely ask how he got from the academic world into one that is maybe more business, corporate, and his role today as an application engineer for enterprise integration and data science at Mathworks. If you have any questions, we would also love to hear from you. So down below in our chat or Q&A, you can also ask your questions and I will relay them to Toon for you. So thank you again for joining everyone. And without further ado, let's get started. So Toon, thank you. And my first question to you is, can you tell us a bit about what you do day to day as an application engineer?
Yeah, I guess that's a very good question. I get this asked more than once, actually a day almost. So application engineer is the current term for what we do, but in the old times it was used to be called customer success engineer, and I think I like that term more than application engineer. So what we do is we help customers implement the solutions they want to do, and we help them think about how they could do it with our tools. And I think that brings me also to something I should say before we go further. So I do work for Mathworks, which is a great company, but everything I'm going to say today is strictly my own view and my own opinion. So I'm not claiming at all to speak for my company. Yeah, just for your information.
Sure.
So yeah.
Can you tell a bit more about your role there? And for example, on a regular workday, what do you actually do? What keeps you busy?
Yeah. So I help people, right? That's the goal. People have many requests. They might be looking for a way to implement their project. They want to know how they can do certain things. And as a tool vendor, our company has tools for this, and we help customers identify the right tools and the right ways of doing things, and also we help them position this better, right? Often people come to us and say, I want to do AI. Yeah, so what's that? What does that mean? What do you want to do AI? So it's always good to have the big picture clear, and we help people with that. And then it goes a step further, and it could also include some things like so which algorithm would you recommend? How does clustering work? What is the difference between high level and low level questions? And we help with that as well. And my role is to make people successful using these tools by addressing these questions. Yeah.
That's very interesting because I don't think I have met many data scientists who necessarily describe their role as helping people, even though I think they definitely are with their solutions. But as I understand, you are more directly working with the customers as well.
That's correct, yeah.
All right. So can you talk a little bit about what it is like working at Mathworks and what the company does exactly?
Yeah, of course. It's a great company. I come from academia, so I like the academical. I liked working in academia before I left. It's a similar atmosphere that you find in Mathworks. So it's a company full of smart people. Sometimes I jokingly call us like a nerd company because I'm also a nerd. And it's a company that houses lots of talent, and the combination of all this talent is fantastic. So you can really tap into everybody's specialties. For example, when we want to help a customer on some data science thing, and there is something that we don't necessarily know directly, I can always ask somebody. There's always somebody who knows what something, right? And maybe one thing I didn't mention in the previous question is one other thing we do to help customers is also show them what you could do, right? So we do create things like demonstrations and demos, and we illustrate what you could do, right? Especially in my case, we illustrate what you could do apart from making the data science model, right? What you could do to deploy it, what you could do to make it work in a bigger setting, like how you could make it work on streaming input data, how you can make it work to generate intelligence for business makers. So there's this whole thing around it. That's also a thing we help with. Yeah.
So your role is a bit different maybe than the prototype data scientist. Can you explain a little bit how your role and the skills you use day to day are different from a data scientist?
Well, I think, yeah, good question. So the role is different, yes, for sure. But I am also a data scientist, so let's not forget that. So I do need people like me do need to have the skills, right? That our customers are also looking for, right? So I'm a data science, but there are also other areas. So in my case, I know about data science. I know how to implement things with regard to data science. And again, my own topics are mostly, maybe we can call data engineering, right? The questions also beside the algorithm, but really like how do you use it? How do you implement it into your IT/OT organization? How do you make sure that it works, right? How do you test things? So these skills are definitely there, and I think that's coming from a technical background. That's where I have a lot of added value, right? But also the interesting thing about my job, and what I like really a lot, is that this is, apart from these hard skills, there's also the soft skills that are really important, right? So a data scientist generally needs some soft skills more than, let's say, an average engineer. But I think in my case, being most of the time facing customers, it's even more important. So sorry for this, my dog. If you're not able to transfer the value to make sure people understand the value of what you're doing, then there is sometimes no use doing it at all. So in our case, communication is maybe as important as the actual hard technical skills.
Yeah, that's great. It's also something that we have realized, and why we're also putting both soft skills and technical skills into our program. And I think one thing that caught my attention, you called your company kind of as a team of smart people or even nerds. And I think there's this stereotype, right, about scientists, including also data scientists, that they're nerdy and maybe don't have the greatest social skills. So what do you think about this stereotype, and especially considering that the soft skills you said are so important?
So nerdy is not a bad thing, right? I think nerdy is good. I think the world probably needs a lot of nerds. I think because they make things that help, that advance us, right? And it's not just about translating. It's not just about being able to communicate to nerds and from nerds like myself to other people. It's also being able to understand, for each or different people, each person with his or her own background is able to understand what this thing now contributes to a larger system. Nothing is built by only one person ever in the current times, right? Everything is collaborative. So it's important that every piece of this collaborative puzzle, be it a technical thing or somebody who's maybe more in business or something else, that we all are able to understand what's the contribution, right? And data science is unique, I think, in engineering and science in general, in that it brings together many more areas than you would have traditionally. So you have also the whole societal aspect. Often you have you even have linguists on the call sometimes, right? So that makes it very, very much more interesting, I think.
And I want to talk a little bit about your journey to your data science role. So you come from a more academic background, you hold a PhD. So can you tell us, how did you decide to become a data scientist, or when did you shift from academia to a data science role?
Yeah, maybe because I realized I like research a lot. I like it's the frontier of what's possible, right? But I really don't like doing the research myself. So I wasn't a big fan. After completing PhD and some postdoc, I realized during the postdoc that it's not for me. So I want to be in a position where I can have this understanding of what is being done by researchers without having to do it myself. So I think that's what I found in my company. So in my case, what I did was I actually was looking for a way to apply my technical skills in a different way than just research, and I was looking around. I became kind of annoyed by this whole fact that data science and deep learning especially was so like irritatively like very famous and such a big hype. It irritated me. Like, why is it such a hype? Like, is it really true that it can live up to all of these things that people are saying about it, especially in the media? You know, like AI has great promise. People are afraid of it. People are not afraid of it. Whatever. So I decided to just have a look and just do one of these Coursera courses, the ones you can do for free if you want online. And I started with the one by Andrew Ng, you know, a famous guy. He used to be at Google. He has this. He's a very great educator. So I was hooked instantly, and I really liked his course. I zipped through it really fast, very interesting, and I was very happy because I realized that the technical skills that I built up, and I think many people like me have built up in science, in engineering, and in mathematics especially, are also applicable to the areas of data science, right? So many tools you have built up just need a little bit of refurbishing to work also for data science. That was nice. I realized that. And also then afterwards, I went to do some more courses. I did everything online in data science. I didn't want to go back to university after all, or having gone through PhD and postdoc. So I think the most useful course for more advanced knowledge was one offered by, if I remember well, it was called the Moscow Higher School of Economics. They have something called a national. It's inside the National Research University. I just looked it up, and they have a very great advanced machine learning and data science course, which taught me a lot, and I'm really happy with that. And apart from that, I mean, if you're in academia, it's easy to read papers, and you can just keep yourself up to date by doing like there's so much material. It's really almost impossible not to absorb something new every once in a while.
Yeah, definitely. It's also there's so much material. It's sometimes hard to understand which one to read first or study first. So you said you were a bit irritated at first by seeing like data science as a hype in the media, the hottest job of the 21st century. So what do you think now? Is it the hottest job?
I think this is also again my own opinion, but I think it's not necessarily the hottest job, but I think that the data science addition, let's say the data science, the tools data science adds to your tool chain as a scientist, as an engineer, as whatever, make it into the let's say it's the hottest thing you have to know in many areas. I actually don't really believe necessary that you should be only a data scientist. I think the most powerful thing, at least in industry in industrial applications, is by far combining data science and good data science knowledge, which can be taught at like things like your courses, but adding it to other knowledge that you might already have from previous courses or that you might be going forward, right? I think adding data science to already existing knowledge is a killer combination. So in that case, yes, it's definitely the hottest thing you should learn.
Yeah, I think sometimes our university president describes it as the new MBA of the future, that not everyone might become a data scientist, but everyone will be applying some level of data science in their role or profession. So if I do want to remind everyone that if you have a question directly for Toon, please again use it in the chat or Q&A, and we'll get to that as well. Now, data science obviously is a field that is adapting, evolving very quickly. It's also such a wide term and sometimes even mistakenly used. But talking about data science and the future of data science, what do you think is one of the most important current issues in the field, or something that we should be paying attention to for the coming years?
What's the most important thing we should be paying attention to? Yeah, I think so. I'm speaking I work. I think we should make, first of all, before I give an answer, a distinction between the sort of data science that is purely, let's say, used by the software engineers. So maybe predicting the best advertisement to show on Google. I cannot speak for that much because I don't know enough. But the world I'm in is connected to engineering, right? It's about adding value to current already existing situations, right? Being able to predict when something fails, optimizing difficult problems. Data science will add contributions there. Being able to help, like being able to design algorithms that help cars drive by themselves, avoid accidents. All these things are that's I think where the killer combination comes from. And in that aspect, I think the most important thing that it might be sad, might be boring, but the most important thing that I see that would be useful now, and many companies are working on it, is how you can now make data science trustworthy enough to be used in all of these situations. So if we want to really use the value of data science, it will be in these situations where actually lives are at stake sometimes, right? Or at least a lot of money is at stake, you know, in predictive maintenance. Sometimes like the downtime of certain things it's just the high cost that you want to avoid. And sometimes, like I said, it might be really lives at stake. But to use that there, to just have society accept that it will be used there, we will have to work a lot on making sure we understand the boundaries of where it is applicable and where it works well, right? Explainability of models is very important, and the legal framework around it that will enable us to now get these things into real products and real solutions. That is something that the world is still working at.
Yeah, I think it was a bit of a wake-up call a few years back when GDPR was introduced, and everyone quickly had to study it. So you obviously are in a role where you have very direct contact with customers as well. So I think this question might be not too difficult for you to answer, but what is the impact that you have as a data scientist on the business or on businesses?
I hope to have a lot of impact. I don't know. Like I said, and again, my view, right? Only my view. What we do is, what I think is the best way to use data science to have the greatest impact is to add it as an additional tool on top of other engineering knowledge, other engineering history that you might have as a company, right? You make a car, you want to make sure you want to add self-driving capabilities to it through advanced data science, right? So I think that's the combination that where I would like to see where I typically hope to see most impact. My own role is a facilitator, right? I don't claim to really be the reason a company is successful, but I really like it when a company comes to us and says, "Hey, we made this work. Thanks for your help," and then you're gonna share in their success. So they're really cool things. But yeah, the impact it varies along company.
And I would like to bring in a question from the audience. I think it's building off of our conversation about some of the important current issues in data science. What would be your opinion on what areas have data science not been implemented or fully utilized yet? What areas of data science have not been implemented or fully utilized yet?
What areas have data science? Yeah, very good question, Jan. I see your question here. I think this again ties back into what I just said about explainability and being able to trust your models enough for them to be used in situations where important things are at stake, like lives, right? You know that Tesla's routines, algorithms are actually already good enough to make the car drive by itself. But in most countries, I'm not sure about all countries, but in most countries, you're not able to use it yet. Right, so there will be at least some things that if one could use data science there, that's already a giant thing. That doesn't say that there hasn't been any development there. I think there's been a lot of development. So if your question is rather where have we not focused on, I would like to know from you if you have any inputs. That's interesting to know as well. Yeah.
So while we might see some comments coming in,
yeah,
I want to talk a bit about your tips for data scientists or people who are thinking about this career. So this includes some of our students who may be watching this back later on, or some people in the call who are aspiring data scientists. Maybe they're just thinking about it. Maybe they've taken the first step. But what is a piece of advice you would give them as they're starting this career path?
I would say definitely go for it. I mean, even if, like I said, I think most of the value for data science from data science will be delivered by adding data science to already existing or to additional other knowledge like engineering knowledge or scientific knowledge or even mathematical knowledge. I think it's very good to focus on it for a while and to make sure you have the understanding required at least the big picture, to know the difference between supervised learning, unsupervised learning, things like that, to know what are commonly used things, what would be useful, read some books. But then I really think that my advice would be to really focus on having that that science knowledge working together with something else. Most people have some other background as well, and I think that's the combination. And if you don't have that and you don't want to have other knowledge, just make sure that you are at least then your angle of attack will be, I think it's best to have that angle of attack focused on how to work together with these people. So focus on the abilities that are required to understand other people, right? Focus on how can I, as a data scientist, add value to other people's processes, right? Make sure you become the communicator of that team. Make sure you understand what other people are contributing and how your solution could add to that.
That's great. And I think, you also already mentioned some of the online resources that were very helpful to you. Now, I think quite some people are choosing to study online or maybe study in person data science. But do you have any idea or any tips on how they can increase maybe their track record, or how they can work on like projects and increase their portfolio when they're just starting?
Yeah, good question. How can you increase your track record? So we have this proliferation online nowadays of people. You almost need to have a blog and 10,000 followers to be noted, right? So I think the best thing to show your ability is typically to do some projects, right? Just make something. Maybe go to a Kaggle competition, even if it's artificial. It just shows you have some skills. Again, try to broaden, to make your scope as broad as possible. Don't just focus on whatever part of the science you like most. Treat it as something additional to other tools. I really think that will actually help a lot.
So just a lot of practice. There's another question from Amin in the audience. I think we all know that right now the labor market is generally quite affected by COVID-19, by the pandemic. Now, at least prior, there were quite a lot of data science job openings. Have you seen any impact on data science job opportunities due to COVID-19? Or what is your view on this?
Yeah, I think personally, I haven't seen that much of a difference yet, but I do understand this will be this effect will probably ripple through, because if other businesses start to lose opportunities, they will not hire data scientists either, right? Because many businesses see data science as an added value that can improve how they do their current work. So my advice would be, I mean, if it's a global, let's say, or a bigger scale crisis, data science will be affected, yes, but I do think that it will be less affected than other areas. So again, yeah, it's something we're all in the same boat in the end. And if it's not the perfect climate nowadays, it will probably get better.
Yeah, and I think that's probably as uplifting as it can get, considering the general state of the job market. So if there's no further questions, I think we'll get into our last few minutes. One more question from Ritu. Did you consider working with any other companies before joining Mathworks?
Actually, did I consider any other companies? So not really. I did consider going into a training program, the Insight Fellowship from the US. I got selected the Canadian one, because I don't have a green card. I got selected for that, so I was really excited. But I think that I was done studying, so I was eager to start working. And I mean, the company I added up is really a great match for my profile. It's a nerd company with strong academic roots. We have got an amazing amount of different industries we support. We do very cool things. Yeah, so no, the short answer is not really.
Great. So my final question, actually, you in part already answered it, but that is to end on a positive note. What is it that you like most about your job?
What I like most about the job is that I have a extremely wide range of customers to work with. And by the way, I say customers, but it's a bit of a weird way of saying it. It's more like people to work with. No day is the same. There is a lot of excitement in having something new to do every once in a while. I mean, every day, actually, basically. And the best part of the job is definitely when some company or some users you support end up having made some real cool project, and you've been at least a little part of this. I think it's a general feeling that consultants also probably have, but we touch more people because we don't go into that much depth as a consultant. Yeah.
Thank you. Just one final question from the Q&A. Thank you, Luxerta. So I think already your experience, and also if you check back some of the previous interviews we've done in this series on our YouTube channel, you will also see the answer to this question. But do you think there's a clear career path or growth for data scientists?
Is there a clear path? I don't know. I think every company is doing it a bit different. And again, there is this big difference between companies that focus solely on data science and the other companies that are using it as an additional tool on top of the already existing competencies. So I think that no, there's no clear path. For the second kind of companies where it's really an additional tool, I think that the career path is probably as traditional engineering careers or science careers. But in the first kind of companies where it's really about data science, the way I've seen most of them is they operate mostly as consultancy companies. So it will be the typical consultancy career path. But I couldn't really help you because it's a new field and the world is still discovering, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's no clarity yet. And I think that's probably also why it's so exciting to be in the field. So we do have to wrap up. I know that Toon has another call to get to as well. But I want to thank everyone so much for joining us, and thank you for all the questions and comments that you've been sharing. And of course, a big thank you to you, Toon, for all your experience that you've shared, the tips you've shared with us today. We will be uploading this session to our YouTube channel as well, if you would like to watch back. But thank you again for joining, and stay in touch through our LinkedIn.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.